All right, welcome to Two Notes. I'm your host, Joe Chap. Today we're going to be talking about Michigan because I didn't get a chance to talk about their game with Ohio State, but what a great game that was between two great teams. I think the talent level on both sides of the ball was just fantastic, and it literally came down to a couple turnovers. That's literally what it came down to. And look, I love watching Michigan football play. I do. I love watching Michigan play the game the right way. When I look at Michigan football, there's two things that I look at and I go, man, there's just something about that I love. And if you're a football fan, you just love to see it. They run the ball extremely well. They have a great offensive line. They play defense at a high level. They have great players on the defensive side of the ball. I look at Will Johnson and I go, man, he reminds me so much of Jalen Ramsey. I look at a Junior Colson, what a talent at linebacker he is. I look at Rod Moore as a safety. He's a great safety, and I think that pick that he had was just it was a great vision from him to make the play on the ball. I look at Michigan for a couple things, and I know they have the game coming up against Iowa this week, which they should win handily. Iowa is just not a good team. They can't score to save their lives. And if you look at the over total points for Iowa in the Big Ten championship, it's point 0.5. That just tells you everything you need to know. Now they do have a good defense, but they haven't been tested on the with a good offense. And then when they did, they played Penn State and they lost by 31. So I don't look at this Big Ten championship like, oh my God, this is something to drop everything for, because I think it'll be over by the third quarter. But when you look at Michigan, the one thing I take away from Michigan football is I just love the way that they play. I truly do love the way Michigan football plays. The way Michigan football plays is old school football. And I don't think it's emphasized enough in this new day and age where, with the NIL and the transfer portal. I think when you look at the Michigan football players, they come ready to play. They really do. They're ready to play. They're mean. They're spirited. They want to rip your head off, and they're just a great team. And for all the noise that's surrounded Michigan football, the one thing that's remained the same is that team comes out to play every freaking game. They truly do. They're a great team, and the job Sharon Moore did in those 3 games where Harbaugh missed in the main portion of the season with Penn State, Ohio State, and Maryland. He did a phenomenal job. What he did at Penn State, that was phenomenal. What he did against Maryland, I mean, Maryland was it was a kind of tipsy-turvy game, but you won. I thought what he did against Ohio State, he was perfect. I was a marvelous coaching job. There's not much I could say about Michigan in on the field. They're on the field, they're just a fantastic football team. And in this transfer portal NIL era, I think this is the last of a dying breed. I truly do. I mean, every one of those players, it seems like they just care about the program so damn much that they're going to go out there and risk everything for it. And them losing Zach Zenner, that's a hard loss. But, you know, we could talk about the deficiencies Michigan has going into the playoff. We'll talk about that later. But just a fantastic football team, and I feel like they're the last of a dying breed. I truly do. I feel like Michigan football is the last of a dying breed. They're probably the last team that's really going to care about the school that they go to. They're probably going to be the last of a dying breed that plays physical football, like a real physical football. It's just, it sucks because college football is changing, and like a lot of things changing, it sucks because it's not really the way it should be. And the way football plays, it's a prideful sentiment. They play with the tenacity, they play with an aggression, they play the way football should be played. And I look at that team and I go, man, there's so much talent on that team that I just love. Cole Loveland, I just love. But hats off to Michigan, man, because the way that they play, um, you know, but if you look at the playoffs, like if you go to the playoffs, there's going to be a couple mismatches that you're going to probably play against. And I don't think the Big Ten's all that good. But what Michigan did is they won the Big Ten for a third straight time. And I don't think that you could take that away. They did a fantastic job of just playing the game. There was so much noise surrounding the program. They could have slipped up one game. They could have, but those players really zoned on in, and that's a credit to them and the coaching staff. It's a real credit to them because it's not easy to deal with the noise from the outside and then focus on your job on the inside. It's just not. And if people want to gloss over that, they can. But I'm not going to gloss over that. That's a fantastic coaching job by Sharon Moore, by Jesse Minter, and that team was ready to play all 3 games that Harbaugh missed. And like I said, it just feels like this team is like a last of a dying breed. When you look at Michigan, they truly come out to play. I feel like a lot of teams, if they had the same intensity that Michigan had, the same hard work that Michigan had, I feel like a lot of other teams would be really, really damn good. But I feel like Michigan just comes out there and they break you down. And I look at past teams like the Ohio State teams when they were rolling, they were the same way. Offensive line, defensive line had some talent in the back end with the defensive backs. I look at Michigan State when they were rolling, with the no fly zone. Their offensive line was always good. They can run the ball, they can pass the ball. That's how you win. And I know college football is changing in a lot of aspects, but football is going to be football. And the fact that Michigan has done this with the noise around the program, the noise in the national media, it's commendable. I don't think you can say that enough. I mean, these are college kids, and for them to come out and just handle their business like pros, that's a hell of a job by the coaching staff. It's more of a job by these players at the maturity level that they have, because at any given point you could just slip up, and it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much, but they homed it on in, and they made the plays that were necessary to win. And for that, man, I have to commend Michigan for their win. They're gonna win the Big Ten. I don't view Iowa as a team that's gonna challenge them at all. But just if I had to say anything about Michigan, that what a program that they have. They have a hell of a program. The way that the way they play, and those kids are really focused, and that's a credit to the coaching staff. That's a credit to the way Jim Harbaugh has built that team, and it's a credit to those coaches that are the offensive line coach, and who is Sharon Moore, and offense coordinator, defense coordinators, the linebackers coach, it's the defensive backs coach. They're all hemmed in. They all have the same identity, and it's just great to see, because you don't really see that in college football no more. And it's kind of sad, but Michigan is probably the last of a dying breed, if we're going to be honest. So there's going to be a lot to talk about with Michigan, especially with the college football playoff rankings coming up Sunday, the selection Sunday. So we're going to see where they land. I don't think that they'll get to the number 1 spot unless Georgia loses, but for the most part, we already know that Georgia's going to pick. We already know that Michigan's probably going to pick the Rose Bowl, and then Georgia would pick the New Orleans. So it's going to be fun to watch. We'll see what happens on Selection Sunday. But for Michigan, man, what a team! What a freaking team! I love it. That's football at its best. We'll see you in the next video as we talk more Michigan football.